Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching the Today I Found Our YouTube channel, and in the video today we're looking at why January the 1st marks the new year in so many countries. Since long before Julius Caesar's time, date-keeping was dicey. In fact, the 355-day Roman calendar that immediately preceded Caesar's Julian worked on a 4-year cycle, where every other year an additional month was inserted between February, Februaris, the last month of that calendar year, and March, Martius, the first month of the next year. This was done in order to catch the calendar up with the Earth's orbit of the Sun. That additional month, called the Menis Intercalaris, brought in the missing 22 or 23 days, and to even things up, took another 5 days from February in the years it was present. Since the calendar had been designed to ensure the proper observance of religious dates, priests called pontifices were responsible for declaring when the intercalaris month should begin and end. Since these priests were also involved with politics, they sometimes misused their power by intercalating days or not intercalating them, merely in order to lengthen or shorten some magistrate's year of office, or to increase the gains of some government contractor, or to inflict loss upon him. By the time Caesar came around, the Roman calendar was in shambles, and in 46 BC, Julius Caesar commanded that it be changed. The Julian calendar's beginnings were as crazy as the old Roman calendar at its worst. As Sir John Sandys stated in the textbook, A Companion to Latin Studies, in order to wipe out the consequences of past neglect, it was necessary that the year 46 BC should extend to 445 days. The normal number of 355 days had already been increased by the addition of the ordinary 23 days inserted after February the 23rd. As many as 67 days, divided into two menses intercalares, were now interposed between November and December. This year thus consisted of 15 months. After this year of confusion, the new calendar really started. Intercalation was abolished, and each year was increased to 365 days, with a leap year added every 4th year to February. The months of the calendar after Caesar's shake-up followed the old Roman calendar closely, and most of us are familiar with them even today. Along with these changes, Caesar set the new year to January the 1st. But why did he do this? Well, since 153 BC, January was the day new consuls in Rome took office, and Romans had commonly used the name of the two consuls to identify a specific year in question. Thus, by officially making January the 1st the new year, it simply lined up with the consular year. As to why the consular year started on January the 1st instead of the original Roman calendar New Year's Day of March the 1st, well, this isn't known. That said, there are references that seem to imply that January the 1st may have begun marking the new year as early as 189 BC. This precedes when the consular year started beginning on that day. One proposed reason for this switch is that January is thought by most to have been named after the god of transitions and beginnings, Janus, during the reign of the second king of Rome, Numa Pompilius, who lived from 753 to 673 BC. Thus, it was naturally enough for the Romans to eventually decide to make the switch. However, whether this is the reason or not is very much up for debate. Although the Julian calendar was relatively accurate, its use of 365.25 days in a calendar year, as opposed to the precise 365.2425 days over centuries, created a discrepancy in the calendar. In fact, by the time Pope Gregory XIII, from 1572 to 1585, became the Bishop of Rome, the Julian calendar had lost 10 days. It was this discrepancy that brought about the Reformed calendar. Actually beginning 20 years before the calendar took effect with the Council of Trent in 1563, church leaders wanted to restore the spring equinox to the date it was when the First Council of Nicaea was convened in 325. By 1563, the equinox was falling on March the 11th rather than on March the 21st. As simple as making a papal decree, Gregory issued the Inter Gravissimus on February the 24th, 1582, and nearly 8 months later, the last day of the Julian calendar, October the 4th, 1582, was followed by the first day of the Gregorian calendar, October the 15th, 1582. And voila! Today, the Gregorian calendar is the unofficial calendar of the United States and the United Nations, as well as most countries in the world. As for celebrating New Year's Day, since before even Caesar's time, people celebrated the New Year. In ancient Babylon, this began after the spring equinox in March, and part of the celebration included subjecting the king to ritual humiliation. In fact, it was said that if royal tears were shed, it was seen as a sign that Marduk, a god, was satisfied and had symbolically extended the king's rule. After Caesar was murdered by a small group of his friends, the Roman Senate made Caesar a god on January 1st, 42 BC, a date which coincided with the time-honored practice of marking offerings to Janus in the hope of having good fortune throughout the year. Throughout the Middle Ages in Europe, January 1st, New Year's celebrations were discouraged as they were seen by church leaders as a pagan practice. Instead, other days were often used as a substitute, varying from nation to nation. This changed when the Gregorian calendar was instituted, and, at least in the Catholic nations, January 1st once again became the official New Year, and it slowly spread from there with the Gregorian calendar. And now for some bonus facts. As mentioned, many Protestant nations ignored the Gregorian calendar for some time. England stuck to the Julian calendar until 1751 before finally making the switch. Orthodox countries took even longer to accept the changing calendars. Russia, for one, did not convert to the Gregorian calendar until after the Russian Revolution in 1917. As an interesting note, in 1908, the Russian Olympic team arrived 12 days late to the London Olympics because of it. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that like button below and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you liked this video, why not check out some of our videos that are over there on the right, and thank you for watching.